Guru Kripa Kevalam. Namaste and welcome everyone to Satsang today. Sadguru Shri Muji Baba ki Jai. Let's go to Dale.
Hello, Father.
Hello, my dear.
Hello. I think it's 6 weeks ago, at the end of my summer holidays, when I last talked to you, and it's half term this week.
I see.
So that's why I'm here. And my children's next week, so we don't overlap. So I've had a chance to come and talk to you. I think I've had quite a blitzkrieg of watching and listening to your Satsang since last time. So much of the time on the way into work and back, I've been listening, and I do think lots of extra things are resolving and sort of sitting with me really well. I think the concept of consciousness having free will to choose with the ego or not, that's pretty cool. So I've been reflecting on that quite a lot. The fact that it's up to me whether or not deep down I believe what's triggering the ego or not. And I've had the feeling that over the last month and a half, in various situations that maybe in the past would have triggered something, sort of hasn't. So there's been some sort of distance, I think, between things happening in the world and how I've reacted to it. And it's been quite funny in a way, because you can think, well, in the past, this would have made me react, I think, differently. That's maybe externally as well as internally. Although I'm a fairly laid back guy, everyone's kind of always said that there would have been things, I think, in my life that I would have handled differently. So that's quite interesting. The only thing that is also still not really playing on me as such, but what I think is it sort of being a scientist, I'm always trying to maybe sometimes overanalyze things, but I think sort of in the present moment and going forward, I get the sense that now I can see I'm not my thoughts, and that as consciousness, if I'm in the right space or state, I can see there's nobody here to be triggered. So there's no reason why it should trigger me, even though I'm not verbalizing that internally. There seems to be this sense that because I'm sort of aware at one level, this is a bit of a play, and that I can sometimes see ego being tempted to be triggered, but it doesn't actually get triggered. Whereas every now and then, if something comes from memory, from some past event of pre-spirituality, quote unquote, if you want to say it like that, then whatever sensation in the body was existing at the time re-emerges, as well as the memory of any conversation that was had and any images that were there. There's still an element of consciousness, even if I can see it happening, that kind of seems to want to identify with things that in the past were clearly at the time meant something. So things that are happening now, it doesn't seem to do it, but things coming up in the past. So it almost feels like I'm clearing out the cupboards, that when these things happen, even at the time, if I think there's a little bit of identification with it, if I have got the time to sort of stop and think, who is really being affected by this? So it's kind of become my new buzzword, rather than, you might remember our conversation of, do I go with who am I or can you stop being? Yeah. What sort of happened over the last week or so is like, who is this hurting? Who is this affecting? Who is this offending? And it's almost then that somehow consciousness realizes that ego is still being triggered by past events. And this is the thing that's kind of tugging on consciousness, saying, look, this is something. You should be bothered by this. So that's about the only thing at the moment that seems to be being able to pull me into identification. But things happening now, or thinking about things in the future, it's not that. It's just these past things that did bother me previously that isn't bothering me now. That's kind of my latest report, I'd say.
Thank you. Very good. Very good. Thank you for this report. It's really very nice to hear someone who came to Satsang, listened carefully with attention, and then really went through these experiments to see what is really happening in super slow motion, to go through these experiments and then to come to these insights. It's very good. One thing we could start off our conversation today is that in the report, something seemed like it was just about someone trying to become trigger free. Is it like that? Is that what this is about?
Could be. Yeah, it could be. Still a bit of spiritual ego that
Is the way of the heart, or is the mastery, is the presence of God, or the discovery of the self, so that ultimately Dale can become a superhero, trigger-free sort of science teacher in school. Is that what it is?
Yeah. It could still be that. I think, I've added another layer of complexity that I think part of it is with the open and empty. After hearing that for quite a while, I think I'm still not quite there enough with it, because even though I get the idea that thoughts can come and go, I think I still get stuck with the idea of, well, if these thoughts are coming and they are perceived at whatever level as unpleasant thoughts, then I'm clutching on them, rather than just a thought coming and, being properly able to go without any identification. And it really feels as though, something isn't quite happening right. It does really feel as though I'm viewing some of these from a detached space. So I do try and do it from the point of view of where I think I am at the place where I can say, I can see that I'm awareness or consciousness. So I'm observing these thoughts from a place that I think is where I can say I'm awareness or consciousness. But there is still something happening in the body occasionally, especially with not necessarily repressed emotions or repressed thoughts, but things that, again, way back in the past would have bothered me. And observing these again in the present moment, that's the thing where I'm saying, am I observing this as Dale? Am I trying to analyze this from the point of view of an ego? Even though it does feel as though, because from the last conversation, you were saying, if you're at the point where what you are is apparent to you, then anything that comes up is likely to be truth. Whereas if you're not at this place, anything that comes up is likely to be the mind. So
let's look at it.
Yeah, it's in some sort of purgatory.
Let's dive in together a bit, so that we can walk through this a few minutes together and see where we end up in that journey together. So, okay, let's look at it this way. Let's use your perspective of being a scientist. So, suppose that in the Big Bang Theory, everything after that makes sense, although now it's starting to not make sense if you've been following the news. But suppose everything after that is making complete sense. But in actuality, God created the universe. You see? But that notion or that recognition, although it is available with you, makes no sense and does not actually give us the ability to put intellectual frameworks about anything that followed after that. You see? And yet, suppose for a moment, I'm not proclaiming it yet, I'm just saying, suppose for a moment the second is true, but you cannot meet it through any ability to intellectualize. What would you want? Would you want a framework which then ultimately makes sense out of your life? Or would you prefer a truth which, although you cannot make sense out of and does not give you any benefit, you see, and yet it is that which we will go with because it is true.
Definitely the truth.
The truth.
Yeah.
This is
I don't want to live in the holodeck.
very good, very good. This is very good because this then becomes truth for truth's sake.
Mm.
You see, truth for truth's sake, and not so that truth can help something, help Dale, help the Sangha, help anything else. It's not to help in that way. It is valuable because it is truthful. You see? And this is the attempt. So we can go subtler than our last conversation today to meet it at this level, because really the attempt, as long as it is to try and aid a particular individual, that individual will get amplified in some way, even though the attempt may be to sort of keep it subdued so that it doesn't cause any trouble. If the end goal itself is to prove that the Big Bang Theory is true by forgetting about the Big Bang Theory, then the Big Bang Theory will rear its ugly head eventually at some point. So what I'm pointing to is that what is that discovery which we can bet our life on? What is that discovery on which we can bet our life, although it may not seem to provide any benefit to us? And that's a giant leap of faith. That's a giant leap of faith. But to say, I will go for truth, even if it makes no sense, even if at the level of perception it adds no value to the life of Dale, I'm still going to pick truth because I'm done with lies. I'm done with lies. Like you said very nicely, I'm done with the holodeck or this apparent Maya which shows up. So what is that which is true? So when we have a question like, am I aware now? Does the report of yes, does the assent to the question, am I aware now, does it make any sense? It makes no sense. Because there is no proof available. There is no proof available. Nobody can go in along with you and verify with you that you came to that vision of that which is unperceivable. See, there is no scientific proof, litmus test available with which you can say, this is what happened. See, this proves that I am aware. There is no. So to accept that itself is a leap of faith. So a question like this brings you to a point where undeniably you have to leap over the moon, as Guruji would say. You have to be the cow that jumps over the moon. With a question like, who am I? Can you stop being? Am I aware now? This is the potency of these questions. They are like Zen koans, you see. The answer will make no sense. You see, even the proposal may not make sense initially. And yet, we come to an acceptance of this. And this is the power that US consciousness always has. To accept that which may not be objectively verifiable is the power that you have. And that power is called devotion or faith or trust. It's all in the same spectrum. And this is the place of true value in the human condition. Even Einstein said that I may have 100 thoughts, or 99 thoughts, but only when I swim in the ocean of silence do I find a true discovery. So in every sphere of life, you notice that intuitive insight trumps objective empirical dealings every single time. So now what can happen is, how can I use the intuitive insight to help my empirical life?
Mm.
See? But that cannot be the intention, because then ultimately we are making God out of our empirical life. You see, if the discovery of the self or God must lead to something happening in our phenomenal life, helping our phenomenal life, then truly what are we valuing more? You see? And then if that is the ultimate aim, then would we not drop God or the self if one day we realize that everything in my world will just burn to bits if God is that way? Would we still want God, is then the question.
It's fascinating. So I mean, I've heard you talk about the checker guy so many times, and the thief dressed up as the policeman to catch the thief. I was totally hoodwinked, I think, into thinking these experiments were coming from being.
Well, let's
I
not
can
throw the
see.
baby out with the bathwater. It's good. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I feel like the experiments are very good. I feel like experiments are very good. But somewhere the mind wants to tag along in the experiment, saying, the trigger point is just to check how much does this situation trigger me now. And then it puts us on the scale of empirical progress again, like phenomenal progress, saying, doing better, this could, you see, whereas that you, which could be doing better or worse, actually is nowhere to be found. See? So if we insert that element into the experiment, and then the experiment itself very trickily becomes about that, you see, measurement criteria, then the mind still finds a way to stick on to, you see, our life in this way, in a very tricky and very sneaky way. Although the experiments by themselves are very beautiful, to see that it is nurtured thoughts about things which have been valued in the past. They seem to carry more magnetism or gravitational pull. And these are very beautiful experiments to do. But if the end goal is not to remain in the heart, if the end goal is not to be in the presence of God, if the end goal is not the insight into the self, you see, and the end goal becomes something which is in the temporal scale of time and space, then we are again getting back into like a spiritual selfishness, using just that simple trick.
So it's judging the goals of the experiment. That's the bad part of it.
In that way, it is inserting it and it's switching the game about helping Dale with his day-to-day life and how to make Dale a non-triggerable person, you see, in this worldly play, you see, which at best, if we want, can be a byproduct of the discovery of the truth, not the main intent. See? So suppose it was possible to make a deal right now, and I say, I offer you a trigger-free life. I offer you a trigger-free life, but you have to believe all that is false, you see, and never venture into the heart where God is. What would you take?
No, the truth.
Very good, very good, very good. Very good. You see, then we lose concern about all this stuff. You see, all this stuff which tries to insert itself through these narratives, and we lose concern about all of that. And then we just are the object or the intent with which we do these contemplations or experiments is then to really validate the presence of the Lord, or really validate that which is beyond the coming and going of this waking state. That is the unchanging truth which our heart is longing for now. And we simply throw into the fire anything else that could be distracting, or could be just a matter of the lifespan of this dream, which we cannot predict anyway.
Yeah, I think another thing that gets me sometimes, now you've mentioned that, is that the ego manages to convince me that if you are triggerable, you haven't got it yet.
Yes, exactly. This is how it works. So if we have a personal expectation out of it, and that itself will be used as the benchmark to beat you up. Even if it says today, you're doing very well. You see, you're doing very well. You're freeing yourself from all these triggers. If an ex-girlfriend called you 6 weeks ago, it would really have bothered you, but now she calls and it's nothing. It's just part of the play of life, for example. So I can use those kind of benchmarks. And then tomorrow it will say, hey, but look at this. This tiny thing triggers you still. You see? So it uses the wrong measurements. Uses the wrong measurements for our spiritual search. And the beauty and therefore the problem in spiritual life is that it cannot be measured. And for a scientist, you have many advantages on this search, but maybe also the condition may cause this disadvantage because you're looking for empirical proof. There is no proof with which we can measure the life of a sage. And that's where we mess up many times trying to judge the lives of teachers, which we try to understand in some construct that we have about things, but it's just not measurable.
Yeah, maybe it's time to drop the experiments a little bit.
Let's
just
see.
Not overdo it. Just forget about it.
let's see how this conversation ends. So, the experiment of checking whether you are aware, the experiment of, it is the process of the experimentation itself in which the proof is established, isn't it? Now, does it matter if 10 milligrams of bliss was produced or not?
No.
It doesn't. So the byproducts of this experiment are not relevant. To be in the presence of your being, what should be the worldly proof of that? What should be the worldly outcome of that? Should you start to get a halo, or should you start to get disciples, devotees? What should be a true validation of the fact that you are valuing the presence of your being more than you're valuing your mind? There is no proof of that.
True. Shouldn't matter.
So these contemplations are fine, the experiments are fine, but as long as they are instantaneous and they are not about the measurement of something in time.
Sorry, can you say, you said as long as, I missed that word after.
As long as they are instantaneous. And not leading to a measurement of something in time. So I would say half the experiment is good and the rest can be discarded.
Okay.
Because the mind would love that you don't do these contemplations anymore. Also, like it's a win-win situation for the mind. Both. So either it gives you the pose of the spiritual checker guy, which you very nicely spotted, which is using these contemplations to check on their progress. See? Or it proposes to you that this is all useless, throw it away, just throw it. But the truth is always somewhere in the middle. To value that, which is helping us come to this true insight, helping us stay in our heart, stay in our intuitive insight, but not pick up them judgments or interpretations which are coming from the head.
So everything is afresh, like you said before, with intuitive insight. Everything is afresh. So when you say it's just now and now and now and now, rather than, like I said, your mind will extend a experiment in time and write down the results and then judge the results.
Yes, this is another beautiful example of how we just can't get it in the head. No? So we just can't get it in the head. This is completely a paradox, because to meet the timeless, you have to do it in the instant in time. You cannot do it in time. You cannot meet the timeless within time. How many seconds will it take to meet the timeless? You see this paradox? It's amazing. You meet the eternal. If you try to do it, okay, I'm giving myself 1 hour to meet the eternal. What can you do? What will be step one? What will you do in the first minute, second minute, third minute? You see? You cannot plan it like that. The eternal has to be met outside the lens of time. And that ability is completely yours as consciousness. So fundamentally, it boils down to one simple thing. If you are using the wrong instrument, you cannot get the right result. So the wrong instrument being the instrument of the mind, and if the instrument of the mind is even participating, you see, taking notes along with you, and it can take notes along with you, that's fine. But if you value those notes, that is where the trouble will come.
Fascinating. If you are truly trying to observe from the point of intuitive insight,
yes,
then a thought can't even play out.
Yes.
Because the conventional thought is extended in time. So whereas an observation of the wardrobes over in my bedroom there can be instantaneous, and then it's still there and it's still there and it's still there. With a thought, you can't really at an instant.
It's worth contemplating, because
see a thought.
In reality, although it's very beautiful what you said, we cannot even be that deterministic. See, we have to just allow it to unfold moment to moment. Like an insight may come like this, and we may share that as a pointer without latching on to like the thought itself or the notion itself being some gospel truth that we can then latch on to as if it is true. In fact, in the heart, it is impossible to be deterministic. And I realize that I'm saying that very deterministically, but you have to get the softness of the spaciousness with which it is said. The need to conclude will be the gravitational pull that pulls us back into the head. So more and more here in Bangalore, I don't know whether I've said in the broadcast so much, really there is the way of the head, the way of the intellect, and there's the way of the heart. Now, outwardly, whether one uses the way of the head or the way of the heart, or follows the way of the head or the way of the heart, outwardly you may not be able to tell the difference. You may not be able to tell the difference. And any phenomenal byproducts are byproducts at best. But inwardly, our life completely has to change. The life which was part of the narrative, which was the way of the head, has to completely be discarded for us to come to the way of the heart. And it is not really a sacrifice. It's the highest gift that we can give to ourselves. It is a gift we can give to ourselves.
There was one other thing I wanted to mention last time, but I forgot to bring it up. It was I think my first introduction to any sort of spirituality was through Jiddu Krishnamurti.
Yes.
And I just saw there was a 2-minute clip of the observer is the observed.
Yes.
And I became a little bit obsessed with trying to work out what that meant.
Yes.
And it's kind of what the path it led me down, and I think I did mention something on this the first time, was I was searching for observing the observer, witnessing the witness.
Yeah.
So it was early on thinking that to properly get it, you've constantly, attention has constantly got to be on I am. And I've heard other people say this as well, that, you know, and I think in our first conversation, it was a bit like, well, when I'm at home, I feel like I'm getting it, but when I'm at work and you're lost in daily activities or whatever, and attention isn't on the I am, then I'm not doing it correctly. Now, of course, awareness is clearly still got to be there because it's aware of everything. But it's not all about having to constantly remind yourself to put attention on I am, because then that becomes a chore, that becomes a practice. And like I've heard you say about, was it you saying you read Bhagwan's book and he said he kept attention on I am for 3 years and then he says, no, I've got it.
Maharaj, yes, Maharaj is, yes.
Yeah. So gosh, no, I mean, but I don't think I was trying to do it for 3 years, but I remember having times when I've tried to spend a lot of time with attention on I am, and it is a struggle. I may be better than some, but I can focus quite well on things. But that was quite refreshing, knowing that you don't have to do that.
Let's see. Thank you for that. It's an invitation for me to dive into very subtle realms, which perhaps I've not done before in satsang like this. So this is very good. So let's talk about the observer, the observed, the play of attention in all of this, and see where that leads us. I feel like this is very beautiful. So let's bow down a moment to Krishnamurti's pointing and say, okay, now, okay, so I rarely do this, but let's create the subject-object relationship for a moment provisionally to see what the pointing could be pointing to. Now, it's an objective world that we perceive. That may sound complicated. All I'm saying is that this world is full of objects. Everything that we perceive has qualities. It has length, breadth, height, time. You see these dimensions, and that is what I'm calling the objective world. Now, attention and belief are basically tools to play with the objective world. To play with the objective world. To play with the objective world without a narrative, which is therefore then beautiful, is just to use your attention. Because without attention, nothing is perceived. With attention, the world is perceived. So the way consciousness plays with this world is through attention. Now it says, oh, this is just very nice, but where's my suffering in this? Or where's the juice or the sting of this Maya? So let me also identify as if, you see, I'm just one character here, one appearance here, and as it is, we have the centrality of visual perspective, so it feels like I'm contained within one body or some idea like that. So with attention and belief, we can look at the object. So if you made a subject-object relationship, you're saying that this is helpful to look at the object. Now, I'm going really fast, and because most of you have been in satsang with me, and if someone has a question, you can raise your hand. So, what are the tools at hand with which we can come into an understanding or an insight, or as we would call a darshan, of the subject? Attention for object, whether you say inside object, outside object. Wherever you go with your attention, you only find object. If you go to the presumed inside, which is not really inside, then you will find a dark room, which is also an object to be perceived. Darkness is a quality to be perceived. So how do we come to the subject? How do we come to the recognition of the subject? So in Krishnamurti, I'm paraphrasing his words, but how will the observer be observed?
I can only think he's talking about I am.
So even I am, even I am, even if we say, okay, we are talking about that which is the perceiver, not that which is aware even of perception, even if we say I amness, how is it recognized that I cannot stop being? With your attention, you recognize maybe the pulsation of beingness. Now, that's why I said that this is going to very subtle realms. So you recognize the pulsation of beingness. You see, like the core of your heart, like a shining light, like that. But that is the primordial, phenomenal byproduct of your existence. Is it? But in the observation of that pulsation, you cannot answer a question like, can I stop being? With me?
Mm.
Just with that observation, you cannot say this can stop or not stop. Because you're just perceiving it. If somebody put a beautiful light in front of you, you could see the light. And somebody said, can this light stop? You can't say because you don't know what type of light it is. You see? So when the question is asked, can I stop being? As Guruji said, so many beautiful questions in the invitation. Was it born? Can it die? Any of these questions, we cannot answer through the means of thought or intellect. We cannot even answer through the means of perception with attention. So although our attention may seem like it is resting on this pulsating light, and pulsating is a bit of a stretch, it's not really pulsating, but you get the picture. So on this pristine light, with that attention, you cannot say that this can stop or it can't stop. You need to access a different source of knowledge. And so when I ask you, can you stop being? If you could go to your head, you could get completely confused. Or you could answer from learned knowledge. See, you could say, this is Atma. How can Atma die? Atma is unperishable, Krishna said. So therefore, no. See? But that is not the kind of answer that we're looking for. It's just a tool to teach you the way of the heart, to get you to trust the way of the heart, which is to say that I know this answer. I cannot stop you. How do I know this answer? How do you know this answer? Not because of your attention. How do you know?
Mm.
And you know instantly, no computation required, no mechanics required. Even what you were observing in perception could go away, but the answer would not change.
Mm.
Are you with me on this? Because this is very, very beautiful. This is very, very beautiful. So the exercise of staying with the sense I am is to keep I am in apparency. You see? And therefore keeping in apparency the self. See, because as it is apparent that I am aware, in that apparency, the apparency of that I am is also there. It is not two things. In self-knowledge, there are not two discrete things. It is all one self-knowledge. And in the self-knowledge, whether we call it worldly knowledge, a knowledge of the beingness, or knowledge of the absolute, they are not in separate compartments or tables. It's instantaneous and it's full.
Mm.
So all spiritual questions are answered instantaneously. But when we say spiritual questions, it is not that that knowledge is then limited just to what we consider spiritual in category.
Is bliss is an indicator to say that I just
So it depends on what you mean by bliss. Okay? So if it is the Ananda, see, bliss is Ananda, but Ananda in spirituality has three categories. One is the bliss. So if I have some wonderful uh, lemonade, for example, just imagine. So, very nice. See? That bliss is an objective bliss. There was an objective perception with attention. See? Some sweetness, some sourness, some nice mix of all of this was perceived, and something got delighted with that and said, bliss. See, that is an objective ananda. Then it's natural that in a contemplation, like can you stop being? When you come to the darshan of your own Atma, or when you sing a devotional song, like objectless, the bliss of just an encounter with your own Atma, your own being. This is called Bhajanananda. So the Ananda which is the fruit of our devotion. Then there is something called Brahmananda. Brahmananda does not mean any object and does not have a objective byproduct also. So, am I aware now? I am this awareness. It may not have any type bliss, but it's very blissful. It's like the bliss of sleep. Why do you find sleep so blissful? By the absence of even the being itself, we want that at the end of the day more than anything else. So that is the ananda, which is not guna, not with attributes in any way. So the discovery of Brahman, of myself as Brahman, comes with this ananda, which is beyond any objective ananda. So why that a full explanation is required is because you cannot say yes or no. I have to explain it. Is there ananda? Yes. But then you will make it a benchmark to say, then my insight is not true because I'm not experiencing the ananda. I feel more ananda when I eat a, sweet something, a candy or something. So what kind of self am I experiencing? That can't be it. So that is not the category in which we are operating anymore. How do we recognize that we are peaceful in sleep? We cannot recognize it through any empirical, through any objective way. But we know we are super peaceful in sleep. How do we know? It's the way of the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Of the heart. So this is the bane of the spiritual seeking in some sense, where we use the worldly tools in the spiritual realm. And then the mind says, yes, you're doing well, keep going. So that one day it can set you up for failure and say, no, this is just not working. So I want to short circuit that whole mechanism, take you out of that playground and pull you into my playground. Pull you into my playground where no measurement is needed, no time is needed, no report cards are needed, just I don't even want to say just beauty because then we can make a thing out of that.
One thing that I do find interesting when I try and relax the attention or put the attention on I am or search this is that when I'm doing that, I can still see, obviously with my eyes and visual perceptions come in, but the mind in terms of thoughts is virtually silent.
Yeah. Okay. We'll come to this in a moment. I don't feel like we squeezed all the juice out of the previous question. So we were with what Krishnamurti said. So you have to observe the observer. Now the way to observe the observer is then we are discovering that although attention may find a resting place in beingness, you see, that is not really a true observation of the truth. That may be a part of it. That may be a restful place for attention to rest while this contemplation is on. But what I'm pointing to is that right now, you're aware of your presence, or it's clear that you are present, independent of where attention may be. So what is the source of that knowledge? You may say, in fact, that everything is just appearing within my being. So what is the source of that knowledge? Is it imagination? No, it isn't. Because hopefully you're not imagining one like being sort of container which is engulfing the whole universe or something. I hope none of you are doing that. You see, because it's not about that. It is nothing to do with this objective play. So when Ashtavakra said that you are the boundless ocean in which thousands of universes come and go, what knowledge was he referring to? And is that knowledge not available with us in an instant? We know this somewhere. Live there. Where we know this, live there. And live there means don't live in the other guy's house. That's all. Everything is there. Everything is to live in the truth, except to live in the narrative of the mind. So we are uncovering some beautiful things in these conversations. So as you say, yes. So how does the master pointed to provoked us with a pointer till you observe the observer, you will not be done with this spiritual journey. Suppose. Yeah? So then you cannot do it through our traditional means at all. So this is inviting or provoking a switch over of instruments. Switch over from head to heart.
Can I ask again what you mean by saying live there? It doesn't mean that you've got to constantly observe the observer. Just if as long as there's a realization that what we're discussing is the truth. If in your everyday life you believe the play a bit more, a bit like when you're watching the TV, every now and then you realize I'm watching motion on a screen. But if you get involved in the movie, then you do kind of lose yourself and you forget that you're actually watching motion on a screen. So in the same way, in the everyday world, like I said this last time, that I can be teaching at school and everything's going fine, and every now and then I catch myself thinking, this is a bit weird. Clearly I'm consciousness playing out the game of being a physics teacher, but without realizing I was consciousness playing out the consciousness bit, playing out a physics teacher role.
Yes,
it's not always apparent unless I stop.
Very good, very good, very good. So thank you again, because your questions are just invitations for my heart to speak today. It is so beautiful. I feel like the theme of everything that I wanted to share in Satsang are being captured in them. So then we say, okay, now we've discovered that there is a head, there is a heart. Only suffering is in the head, only misidentification, confusion is in the head, remorse, pride, regret, arrogance, seeking, all this troubling stuff in the human condition are here. You see? And it is now I'm being reassured by my master that there is no need to live here. See? Because there's another resting place for you, which is the heart. You see? Now the question should be that, okay, all this sounds very beautiful and even poetic and all of those things. But how can I live this? How can I do this? You see, how can I live like this? So notice that till you use the power of belief, you cannot pretend that you're in the hypnosis of identification. That is the only door to misidentification. That is the only door to suffering. You can experiment with it now. The apparency of your truth does not go in the observation of the physical world. First, we must validate this. You see? So, because otherwise we may feel that this is all to do with attention and where I put my attention. So therefore, the experiment then is to try and put all the attention on this hand that is in front of you. You see? And see if you are aware of that which is beyond perception just naturally. You can't help it. It's just natural to you. So in pure perception, as I call it, you see, the world is tasted, the being is tasted, and your self is tasted. So all three forms of Ananda are available. Available, you don't have to hanker after that. The worldly Ananda, world is tasted fully in every moment. That's why I keep saying, can't you guys seeing this? Are you seeing? Sometimes I shout at them here. It's like, are you guys not seeing this? Are you missing the light which is here? Is it? I don't mean any light coming from Ananta or something. I'm just saying in the room, you see, any light. So the objective world is apparent. The presence of your being is apparent, although it may be apparent in a non-localized way, as opposed to the exercise we may do with attention. And that there is that awareness, the witnessing, which is my unchanging reality, is apparent. With nothing, without us doing anything except not giving belief.
Hmm.
We must validate this experiment. The only way to validate it is intuitively. So if you don't bother with attention at all, what is lost? Isn't the truth still apparent to you?
It is.
But
I'm not going to say but I'm going to have. But it does feel different because you've asked that question. You've asked us to look. So because you've asked us to look, say, isn't it apparent?
yes,
Automatically,
yes.
something is looking.
This is the thing with self-realization. You see? This is the thing with self-realization. Nobody comes to self-realization and says, this just happened. This is another paradox which your mind just cannot resolve. You see, everybody comes to a recognition of the self and says, this was always here. You see? So although there is, that's why we have Satsang. Although there is, this invitation seems to be needed in this play. What you're recognizing is that what you're recognizing, plus that it was always here.
Hmm.
And yet it seems to be clear because I've invited the looking.
Yeah.
You cannot solve it here. You cannot solve it here.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a bit like me saying to myself, I know I'm Dale. Do I have to keep reminding myself I'm Dale, or do I have to keep going into a bathroom mirror and saying, yep, I'm still Dale, walk away and do something else? Let me just check if I'm still Dale. I'm still Dale.
Yes.
Clearly you don't do that.
Yes.
You don't start doubting that you're actually Dale.
Yes. What happens in your conditioning is because you're a scientist and a teacher, you're quickly looking for illustrations or metaphors to be able to explain things. You see? So I'm going to invite that you don't bother with it for some time. You see, don't bother with what it means at all. You see, don't bother with what it means. Allow me to come up with all the things which are needed. You just return to the innocence of a child. Just return to the innocence of a child. So although the metaphors you're coming up with are beautiful, I may even steal them from you, but they are not in service to your looking in the moment, because the minute it creates a facsimile in your head about what is going on, then naturally you will get attracted to the facsimile rather than the original. So for a while I'm going to just say, okay, whatever, as beautiful as it may sound, just let it come and go. You don't have to create any reproduction of this for the moment. You see? And of course, it is my blessing that those who come to the way of the heart will naturally share the way of the heart, and there will be a time for that very soon. So there's no rush about that. So I'm just showing you the pristine beauty which is available on call. The most magnificent way to meet the world, and in the same naturalness meet your very being, and come to the undoubtable recognition of yourselves, just by dropping belief in the instrument of the false. You don't have to think about it.
Mm.
to understand it. That's the beauty of this. You don't have to understand any of this. And you just have to allow it to seep through your bones, not even bones. You just have to allow it to seep through. Just like when I got these glasses, these glasses are, what are they called? Bifocal. So it has both the distance thing and the near thing. And the first time I put them on, I just said, this is a mistake. They've got it wrong. They've got the order wrong. And this can't be the glasses I'm supposed to wear because everything was a bit like, that is strange. And then Shri Google came to service, of course. So before calling the doctor, I just Googled it and I said, this happens for the first couple of weeks, it'll seem unnatural, these glasses. And now I'm so used to them. So nice. I can read close and I can see far without any trouble. So how to get used to this new way of life like this? You have to just allow it to permeate. Just allow it to permeate. You cannot do it. You cannot say, oh, cannot see like that. Let's see. You just permeate. The switchover is happening. Switchover. You cannot help it, and you cannot make it worse. Relax. Like the master says, your head is already in the tiger's mouth. Like you're inviting to eat fast or to let go is not going to help. So, just allow, just follow the innocence of a child. Everything is being made clear to you. Everything is made as if it is, Cerelac or Farax or whatever you have in your countries where it is being made into baby food. You just have to follow with great simplicity. That's all. So what we are discovering is that the heart is where we know ourselves, where the observer is observed, where even the play of the world seems just naturally a lot sweeter than we imagined it to be. See, it's not a discarding of anything, it is not a negation of anything, it's just utter innocence and utter simplicity. And there will be constant invitations, from the head. And there will be times where we fall for it also. It's okay. It's okay. As long as we remember that it's only about the next thought that comes. It's only about the next thought that comes. That's all. So this is the switchover from the way of the head to the way of the heart. There's no possibility of judgment here. Like I cannot judge whether you're getting it or not. You cannot judge whether Ananta really knows this or not. I don't know anything at one level. And at another level, I can say I know everything. But there's no way for us to make empirical judgments again. And I'm repeating this often because of your scientific temperament.
Yeah, boiling back to just don't believe your next thought.
See, but you're doing it again.
I'm doing it again.
This is the only habit. This is the only habit now as to how do I make sense of what is going on.
Yeah, I always want a formula. What's the formula that gets me there? Or
what is the gist of what is? You cannot get the gist. It is too immense. You see, all these words have not been used so that they can be made into a gist. If they were gistable, then the gist only would have been shared. They're symphonic in nature. You cannot say, hey, okay, I will take the best notes out of Beethoven and make the better symphony. You cannot do it. It is symphonic in nature. Somewhere you just have to surrender back. You just have to give up on that. What's going on? No idea. Can I make sense of whatever Ananta has told me? No, you can't. Because then I would have failed. Somewhere for all of you, it is sounding beautiful. Somewhere it is sounding frustrating. You see? Now, the frustrating part is the playground of the mind. Allow that to burn itself out, it's completely fine. You stay in where it's sounding beautiful, although you may not be able to make sense of it. Just like a bhajan, you hear a traditional Indian bhajan. Most of us here, including all the Indians here, don't understand Sanskrit. So we can't make sense of the words, and yet we enjoy it. Now your mind make up and conclude, then words are impossible. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Words can also come from the heart. Words can also come from the heart. That's what the sharing of satsang is. You don't have to rush them. You don't have to become judgmental about the truth value of them. Just if something unfolds from the heart without the contamination of individualization of the head, it can unfold. You see? Remember what the deal was. The deal was whether you will pick truth, even if it made no sense, and yet you can feel it in your heart. I guarantee you can feel it in your heart. Even if there's somebody here whose first satsang this is, be completely confused in the head, but something in their heart can feel what you're being pointed to. So remember that the deal was to come to that non-objectifiable experience of the self without it having the condition that it has to make sense to us. It really is two different games. It really is two different games. You cannot marry cricket and football and make a new game out of it. You can try, but it won't be fun. And no matter how well you hit a six, it will never become a goal. Never become. So no matter what mastery we attain in our head, no matter how many conclusions we have formed, the most pristine ones never become hard knowledge.
I think the problem is my brain finds it so fascinating as well.
Yes.
And so my brain is constantly trying to think up algorithms and work out this and that and the other. Yeah, so that's, yeah, sometimes.
What you could do is you could actually give that a little bit of space if it's really overwhelming at times. You could write something, say, okay, now I'm going to write, give myself 20 minutes to write down all the insights that I'm presuming I had. So let me just that. Then just keep it aside. Then just give it that. If it is very, very strong the condition, then just give it some room to get out of your head and somewhere, some outlet. That's fine. But naturally,
start a journal.
Yeah, just write down like on a journal or something. So you could do that. This is your time. Okay, what do you want to say? What is discovery? What are you discovering? It's like this. It's like that. It's like this. It's like that. All the things, everything. You write it down over there. That's fine. But don't value it more than that for the moment. For the moment.
Perfect.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for these
Oh.
questions. They really allowed me to share what I wanted to share today.
Thank you. Thank you, Father.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much. The truth of anything valuable can never be known in the head. It can never be known perceptually. Now, that may lead to a misunderstanding sometimes, that the sage is pointing to like a withdrawal of attention from perception. But that's not what the masters are saying. What's really being said is that even if you openly perceive what we call pure perception, what happens? Are you meeting just the world? In pure perception, are you meeting just the world? Are you meeting just perception? Please contemplate this question. It may seem very simple, but can unlock our life. Unlock our life. As you're just in pure perception, what do you notice? You naturally notice the world's play, the beautiful perception of the world with no opposition. You notice them. You see, your being is completely palpable. Completely palpable. It's completely apparent. You see? And that you are aware even of this being is fully clear. It's fully clear. This is what I mean by open and empty. This is what I mean by open. And the only doorway to hell, the only doorway to hell now, because this is heaven. Okay, there is no other heaven. This is heaven. The only doorway to hell now is to take the rumblings of this mind and to give them value. That process that we call belief. Not even, you don't have to discard your attention from them. If you can do it, fine, do it. If you don't give them attention, then nothing to believe or not believe anyway. So that's fine. But most of us can't. So let attention be on them unless you take them to be true. And you can do this. You can do this. And thank you, Dale, for pointing that out to everyone. Don't get into this sort of meekishness and sheepishness and oh, it's too much, it's too big, I can't do it. You then are not representing God. You're not representing God. God can never be hostage to a single measly thought. Never. There's not a thought as pristinely designed as it may be that can grab the throat of God and say, you have to believe. So already the thought has grabbed you then saying that you are not, you are something limited. You see, and you can then operate from that limited perspective saying these thoughts are too big. No, must hand it over. Must hand it over. And you know the thoughts which will seem attractive to you? The thoughts which will seem attractive to you are those that you value more than yourself. You may think that you value them for yourself. It is a lie. It is not for your true self. The thought of the delusion that you value more than the self are the thoughts which are attractive. So investigate the nature of those thoughts and find out who wants that or who doesn't want that. Either desire or aversion. Whose is that? So, unless you, and you can experiment with this, just be open and empty right now. Just be empty right now. The world is clear without any understanding of it. It's apparent. It's apparent. No world knowledge is missing there. Yeah, action can happen. Drinking of water can happen. You don't have to get into any yogi baba pose to be open and empty. Just very natural. Everything is fine. Your being is apparent on you. See if it is apparent independent of even your attention. So sometimes what may happen is that when you say keep your attention on the sense of being, what are you actually doing? You cannot bring your attention to the unlimited. Your being is unlimited. What are you actually doing? You're looking at, you're coming to the core of this life, the essence of this primordial vibration, and trying to bring your attention to rest over there, which is beautiful in itself. But if you say that my attention is resting on the entirety of my being, that is not possible. Because your attention is limited. So you and everything is your being, and this is apparent. So it doesn't matter whether attention is outward, attention is so-called inward. You see, attention is actually only outward. There is no inward as far as attention is concerned. To go further inward now, you reach a dead stop with your attention. You cannot do it. You see, it's a roadblock. You see? How do you go further inward? How do you see that your being is unlimited? With which eyes? You know this. You know your being doesn't have a boundary. How do you know? Any question which a sage has asked you, you can only answer intuitively. How do you know? I don't know with my attention, because how will I check on the unlimited nature of my being with my attention? Just stop there. Where will you send it to check? You can't check. No? You see? So does your being have a limit? You with me, my dear? Yeah. So does your being have a limit? Where do you know that? Where do you know that? That is your heart. That is intuition. Was your being born? Were you born? Can this die? All these questions can only be answered from that. And the answer is instant. Instant. Not even instant. It's before the instant.
This is happening from when we were small.
Yes.
Intuition was always there.
Always there.
But we didn't know how to interpret.
Yes.
And
Yes.
people taught us wrong.
Yes.
We
You were
were so
conditioned by society and parents to value, to value conceptual knowledge. So that is the way of the world. Not that they are to be blamed, but there's a beauty in, first playing the game of delusion and then stepping out of it. So consciousness is playing this beautiful game in that way. Yes, yes. It's always been here. So many times. Even worldly, like people who are not in satsang, you call them, they'll say, I knew you were going to call. Although the conversation may be happening after 2 years. But suddenly, just before the phone rings, somebody says, I just felt like you were going to call today. What is that? So we neglect this, because there is no mental way to make progress with that. Mostly people are in denial of this. We put it into some categories of deja vu or some, something astrological or something, and we put it into those categories to coincidence. We put it into these nonsensical words, and we hide away from that. Because actually, you know what? In the human condition, we are scared of this. We feel like we will lose our sanity. To come to that which is without boundary, to come to that recognition that I am that which is not perceivable, to the mind is very scary. It may look like death. So, it is the death of the false. But we feel like, but then I'm over, finished, game over. So most of us, although this knowledge is hitting us in the face every day, we are running with all our might away from this. We're running with all our might away from this dissolution of the false. Because to the mind it's scary. It's contra to everything that the mind thinks about the world. In opposition to all our notions about time and space. Who wants to live like that? There are no notions about time and space. Really live like that? Sure? Already started. So cheers started. It all sounds very good on paper. But I'm telling you, it's really good. That's why the presence of a living guru is so helpful, because he can reassure you and say, it's going to be fine. You're not losing anything of value. Because it is to give up on an old way of life. It really is. So when you call someone your guru, when you call someone your guru, and no guru will ever force anyone to call them guru. But if you call someone your guru, really what you're saying is take my life. Until you're not willing to give up on that conceptual narrative you have about your life, and I'm kind of mellowing it down to not scare everyone, till you're not willing to do that, you see, then it's not truly a guru-disciple relationship. Then it is just, oh, I call you guru so that you can serve me and make my life more blissful or free of anxiety or something. That's not it. And is this a gift that you can give to the master? It's not a gift to the master. The master there's no use for so many lives. The master has given up on their life. What is it going to do with all these narratives and stories? Nothing. It's a gift that you're giving to yourself. To give up on the false, no matter how glorious or exciting or even painful, sometimes we are attached to our painful stories because we love a comfortable hell. I'll give up on all the good stuff, but this really happened to me. And this really happened to me. This one did this to me. I cannot forget that. See, I may forgive, but I can't forget. So many glorious things our friends say. Sometimes I just have to. Not all my friends are in Satsang with me, so I just have to listen sometimes. So you hear this kind of reports, this kind of thing. But what is that? It's our own prison. It's our own prison, mind-created prison. So let go of all these narratives. They are your chains. They are stopping you from flying. Now, suppose in reality you're a sparrow, but you think you're a turkey. Okay? So, and then you say, yes, I want to fly, but I want to fly like a turkey. So, till you give up on your turkeyness, you cannot fly like a sparrow. That's all that I'm saying. So, it's the same way. You will not lose anything of value. When I say that, this is what I mean. You may think this is very valuable for my turkey life. See, I'm not talking about the country, by the way, Salah and Jada. The bird is very valuable for me as a turkey. But actually, I'm not a turkey. How many turkey stories are valuable to a sparrow? 0. Okay. You're not that. You're not what you think you are. But you know what you are in your heart. Alright, who can we go to next? Let's go to... Can we go to Peter?
Hello, Father.
Hello, dear.
Actually, it's just to say hello and to tell you that I'm so happy to see you soon in Bangalore.
Yes.
Yes, it's so beautiful. I'm really happy. And also thank you for this today's satsang so far. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
I'm very happy. I was checking actually when you were coming. So early next week, is it? Or
it's the 4th of November,
4th.
Friday.
Good.
So we'll see us in Bangalore on Friday 4th in satsang, I hope.
Wonderful. Very happy.
Claudia is also coming. She has the
Very
same flight, I think.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Very good. Good. I'll try to make the rest of satsang also as good as it was so far. Yeah, I know what you mean. Don't worry. Oh my God. Oh. Okay, let's go to. Can we go to? Let's hear from Salar. Salar.
Hi. My father. It's so nice to be back. I um I've been recently it's been since the retreat that was a couple of weeks ago at the beginning of the month. There's been more moments where I can oh, I'm so sorry. I'm outside and there's like I have like
It's fine.
So there's been more moments where I'm experiencing the presence
Yes.
and feeling more in harmony with it, but
Yes.
I don't always see it as myself. Or there's those moments, but there's also other moments where I go into like a lot of thoughts, or I go into like some heavy state or something like that. So that happens pretty often through the day and everything. And just this beginning when you were talking to Dale and everything, it was so beautiful. I was able to follow it. Or it's really good.
Very, very, very good. So, just when the presence is apparent to us, the being is apparent to us, or the self is apparent to us, then what more could we want? What more could we want? Is there anything more than this? Because the mind cannot do without the version of better, more. Is it? So then it tells you a story about how you can get mastery in a worldly life. And then God is always there when you want. And then and God is always there when you want. You see, it tells you this kind of story. Say that, now I can juggle the world and God. Because the presence that you speak of is the presence of God itself. It's the presence of God itself. Now, don't fall into any trap of jugglery. Don't create any mental category of, okay, but practical life and spiritual life, and all of this stuff. God takes care of all of life, and God does not judge whether something is practical or spiritual. So when the mind offers you these invitations, because that is the only time that you seem to oscillate out of these. You oscillate out of the presence of God only under the hypnosis of a thought, of a present thought. You see, the thought is there and you're buying into it. That is the only seeming oscillation out of the present.
Yes. Yes.
There is no other way to do it.
Yes.
So all our worldly desire, all our worldly notions, how to have the best life for Salar, all of that will come as invitation. And also all our worldly fears. That what if I just stay with God and I become a beggar? You see, what if I stay with God and I never get into any relationship? You see, what if I stay with God and I disappoint my parents? All these worldly fears and the worldly desires is what the mind will offer to you. You see, the mind will offer to you. And then you have the power to not go. You have the power to stay. Fully surrender your worldly life to God so that all these invitations then are neither attractive nor scary. You will be seen as the irresponsible son. See? God's problem. You could become the best, you could have the best partner in life that anybody could dream about. God's problem. You see? So both invitations, whether desirous or scary, handed over. And you have the power to do it. You have the power to do it. So just in the moment of recognition, it is apparent to you that there is nothing greater than this. There is nothing greater than this or higher than this. This is clear in your heart. You know this in your heart already now. In one moment of inspiration, this is apparent to us. In one moment of the heart, this is apparent to us. Now the usual temptations and fears will come from the heart, from the head. You just let them go. And when you do buy them, when you do end up buying them, nothing to worry. Because what's past is past. What's past is past. There's no post-mortem, no guilt, nothing. What's past is past. Fresh now, God is fully here. You see? God is not appearing in your heart saying, you've been a good boy or a bad boy. Okay? God is appearing fully. You see? God is not saying, oh, yesterday you bought into so much desire. You see, you did this, you did that, you should not have done that. God is not judging you. Contrary to what we may think about God, God is not judging you. And God is not saying, oh, you were very good yesterday. You were really good yesterday. Let me give more of myself to you because you were very good yesterday. He's not doing that. See, God is fully present here, available to you. So no judgment is needed. When you catch yourself in a narrative, in a story, just drop it, and that's enough.
Yes, yeah. It's so beautiful, that point you made. I just heard it. It's always here. I believe you said something like it's always here, but then when I believe the present thought that comes up or something, then that's when it can get not be experienced. Something like that is so beautiful, yeah. Because I was just, when you were talking to Dale, I heard that point about not believing your next thought, and I was just reflecting on it. Yeah, so beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful.
Yeah, very good. Your flowering is apparent in just this conversation compared to when we spoke the first time. So
Yes,
very beautiful. Keep following this. Keep following this.
thank you. Because I live I sent a text. I don't know if you've seen it, but I moved from California 6 months ago to Florida here, and I moved with a Sangha brother and sister from California because we've been meeting there for like over 2 years, and we're really, really close. So we decided to move here, and we live together now in this house, and it's so amazing.
You say
So
you sent me a message, is it? Where did you send this message?
To Facebook, and then Mira responded back to me saying, you don't usually see these, but she'll try to show you and everything.
Very good.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's go to Shivoham. Hello, my dear.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. I saw a beautiful photo of you and Muni also yesterday.
It's a Photoshop. It's not true.
I see. Everything is everything. True is a very difficult one to find. So Photoshop you have to do.
Yes. Yeah, I wanted to come and to say hello, Father, and to say, the conversation, the satsang so far has been very, very nice. Yeah, very, very nice, and yeah, all the things I wanted to bring somehow, and also. Yeah, I don't know what to say more, but
So, are you living in the heart?
in a hut?
In the heart.
Yeah. what I can say is it's already complicated. No, well, yes, more and more, I can say.
No, not more. Every moment. I'm not asking about yesterday.
Yeah. Yes, now see. Yes.
Asking for a report, not a judgment.
Yes.
Are you living in the heart?
Yes. Yes.
And the way to live in the heart is to not live in the head. That's all. There's nothing needed from your attention. There is nothing needed from your belief. There is nothing needed from anything. The open and empty is the headless way. Is the way of the heart. Yeah, every couple of weeks, I invent some new words to just make it fun for all of them. So open and empty equal headless is equal to way of the heart. It's all the same. Make it fun.
Yes.
Hard thing. Looks very good. Go to Can I get a conversation with Jagmeet? Hand is not up. Let's see.
Oh, hello.
Hello, my dear.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. I've enjoyed many things about watching on YouTube, listening, including some of your fancy shirts. They've been very nice.
Acha, that's nice. Thank you for that. Let my wife know because she does all this shirt shopping.
She's a good stylist.
Thank you. Okay, I know I put you on a bit of a spot. Take your time.
That's great. No, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's I've been watching and listening to you for some time,
Yes.
and I think for a short while, and there are, yeah, I'd say, although it's our first time speaking, you're closer than close. So please, how do you know, or chop the head as much as necessary. That would be great. That would be lovely.
Wonderful.
That's why I'm here. I guess it's why we're all here. And I think sometimes listening to brothers and sisters, for me, I grew up in England and I live in Ecuador now, whose first language is not English.
Yes.
They say things in such a way that it's almost, I don't know, that you use sort of verbs or synonyms in a way that makes me go, oh, wow, that's a really, really interesting way of communicating. Yeah. I think something, and I guess you've spoke about this often. How does one know? How can you know something that you cannot perceive?
Yes. Thank you. How does one? How, in terms of how wonderful is it that I know and yet I don't know what the mechanism is? Or are you asking for what the mechanism is?
I ultimately, I guess I understand that it is a mental question.
It's okay.
I perceive you. I perceive our brothers and sisters here. I perceive the table. I perceive this open space when I close my eyes. But how does one perceive something that we cannot know? That which is unperceivable.
Yes, my dear. So let's dive into this, and don't at all feel like it's a very basic question or something, because this is the essence of what I'm pointing to. This is the essence of what I'm pointing to. So it's a very good question. And if everybody in Satsang today just got up and asked me this over and over again, I'd be very happy to keep answering this, because this is the best, the highest blessing that we have. Because if all that we ever knew was only that which was perceivable, then the Vedantic experiment of pointing to the fact that everything perceivable comes and goes and therefore is not real, would then only possibility would be for it to end in failure and not in self-knowledge. Isn't it? So if our limits of knowledge were only constricted to conceptualization and perception, then the self could never be an object of self-knowledge. It could never be an object of knowledge where you could never confirm that I had an insight about myself or I had a realization of myself. You see, and even so far as to go and say, I know who I am. This would not have been possible unless we had the ability to get that self-knowledge, Atma-Gyan. So it seems strange only because we have been taught that the means of knowledge are perception and concept. But actually, as we've been saying, there's so much that we know already, which is not based on this. I keep joking and saying, you see, as a parent of teenagers, I can tell you that I know I love my kids, but that love is not always on the condition of feeling the love. Can you relate to this in some way?
Yes, absolutely. I have a 9-year-old, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
So sometimes there is not the feeling of love, sometimes there's anger. You see, sometimes there's something else that can come. And yet when someone asks you, do you love your kids? You know that you love your kids, even though in the moment you may say, no, get them away from me, as you know. So how do we know that? Because the feeling or the perception of the feeling may be anger in that moment. I can say I love all of you kids in the Sangha. I love all of you. And there are times where Sangha kids may frustrate me, although it rarely happens, but it may be not the present feeling, but I can say I love you. So what is the basis of knowledge? Is that a lie then, because the perceivable feeling is not of what we would call love? So love, that love can never be known just on the basis of love, I love. Not, it doesn't have to be like that. That is just a byproduct, a phenomenal byproduct of the love in our hearts, which in the world we have confused for love. Same thing we said about music. You see, where do we like music from? Is it that in our head we are tabulating the notes and saying, that plus this, and that's why? No, you could just be listening without, in the no mind, you see, and you love the music. You could not, maybe the words are not making sense, or the words are very simplistic, or you don't even agree with them, but you love it. Where do you love it? Or you hate it? Where do you hate it? So all of this, you see, existence itself. So when I say, can you stop being? Notice that you can't stop being. Say, are you aware now? It is not needing a mental process for you to confirm that you are aware. And it's definitely not something that you can perceive. So how do you know this? Like, are we first confirming that I do know this? I am aware. First we confirm that. And then we're saying that, what weird knowledge is this? Because it is knowledge which is undoubtable, and yet I'm not perceiving anything to confirm it. And it's definitely not coming just because I know it from scripture or from the master's mouth or something like that. It is direct, true insight. More clear than there is a computer in front of me is that I am. And even more clear than that I am is that I. So that non-perceivable, non-conceptualizable knowledge is self-knowledge. And because it doesn't sound cool to say we just know it, we say intuitively. So how do we know it? We know it intuitively. We know it in the heart.
So you've also said, and I've read in various places, that everything that comes will go.
Yes.
Everything that comes that does not stay is not true. And so by that very notion, I mean, when I say I guess I do mean everyone, but I came here, this life is temporary, it will go. By that very notion, do I not exist either?
Yes. So when we say I came and I go, we're talking about what? The body that was born, you see, in the womb of the mother.
Sure.
and the body that will be cremated or burnt or whatever will happen to this body. So that is the I that came, and that is the I that will go, which is the I that has remained unchanging even in the context of this body. You see, where every cell has changed every few years. Therefore, you cannot, like the ship of Theseus, you cannot identify the baby that was born from my mother's womb to this man who's sitting here on this couch today. It's completely unrecognizable as a body. But what has stayed constant?
Yes, that space, that I.
Yes. And where is that recognized?
Always here.
See, so we're not recognizing right now. What you're recognizing, you're not recognizing through perception or through inference, you see, or through intellectualization of any way, or through any way of intellectualization. You're just referring to a deeper knowledge, which is what I call heart knowledge. So even in the world, see, I see on Facebook, Instagram, when the body of someone passes away, everybody wishes them rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in peace. People just say RIP, RIP. It's right. Although we can talk about the usefulness or not of that exercise, but whatever. But what I'm pointing to is that even those who are not in satsang somewhere recognize the ephemeral nature of the body and the permanent nature of the self. And that's why they're saying, may you rest in peace, although the body is gone. It may already have been burned. So who are they wishing rest in peace to? So somewhere in the human play, although we are obsessed with our mental knowledge and our perceptual knowledge, somewhere, you see, our heart knowledge also plays out in our life for most of us. Do you feel like you are limited? If I was to say, are you limited or unlimited? What would your answer be?
I would say both. There are times when, there are times when, yes, one's contracted and small, but then there are also times when everything, you just seem part of everything and everything. How can you define everything? It's so large. And Anantaji, that space that you've talked about previously.
Can we do an experiment about this?
Please, yes.
Just do that experiment. So if I ask you right now, okay, are you limited or unlimited? In this very moment, before anything, before the first thought.
I guess the answer for what's coming would be, again, both. I'm sat here in this skin, and yet I know it's not me. I know it's not everything. I know that I breathe this air. I see it's in here. It's out there. So it feels like the honest answer for me is to say both.
Very good. Very good. So notice that if we were to be convinced that the first part, that I am the body or I am in the body, that conviction or that belief can only come on the basis of some thought that I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Notice that it is not possible to take yourself to be limited without that happening. And yet the knowledge of your limitlessness does not need a notion. Good, because this is really important and at the crux of what I'm saying. So suppose we say, okay, you are sitting there in the body, like you said. What information tells you that?
the limitations of this body, of this mind, tells me that.
Yes, yes. And are they inherent in the perception of it? In the perception of the body, you see that you're located within it?
It's just part of it.
It's just thought. And,
It's part of it.
and without thought, what do you find about yourself? Slowly.
Get-
It may seem absurd. It may seem absurd initially. So don't feel like you're under any pressure. Just
No, I don't. I don't.
very good, very good. So you said perfectly that my notion of my containment within this body is completely thought driven. Okay? Now we're exploring the other side of it, saying without thought, what do you see about yourself?
Vast, infinite, big, large, all those.
Yes.
And
So it is this thoughtless knowledge. You see? This is what we mean by the space of the heart or the way of the heart. It needs no thoughts, it needs no computation, it needs no variables, it needs no time. Just simply, innocently apparent. And yet, when it uses the mouth to express itself, it sounds scriptural. It doesn't have to be. But I'm just saying naturally, just like if you take a brief digression, just like an uneducated seller of cigarettes on the streets of Mumbai got to this realization, and his words are now translated as "I am that," the Bible of Advaita in some way.
mhm.
Because he's just sharing from that which is so apparent and clear to him, but uninfected or uncontaminated by the limited version of the self which the mind is offering up. And that is just pointing as if in his simple utterances, you're finding the core of all Vedanta. Can you imagine?
I think something that I'd like to ask you, what is it that you have understood or attained, or what do you get that I or we haven't? Is there something simple that you could say, or?
Yeah. So, okay, let me see. In my house, in our house, all our houses, there are two tables. See? There are two tables. One table has offerings which are telling me about my limitations. See? So if I eat them, I buy into how small I am. And one table has offerings which are showing me my reality. So the only difference, if there is one, is that I only go to table number 2.
Mm-hmm. And was it as easy as that? You just went to table 2, or did it take you lots of thinking and lots of suffering, if you like, to eventually get to that? I don't know anything about you, I must say. I haven't researched, or I don't know.
Yes, yes. So
I mean, your name Ananta, is that a spiritual name, or is it your name? I don't know what Tapan Garg is. I don't know.
same. But I'll tell you what I do know. Okay, so thank you for asking this. I rarely speak about these things, but let me see what comes up now to say. So in the life of this one that was called Tapan Garg, the parents gave this body the name Tapan. So, and then Guruji gave this body the name Ananta. The name Ananta. So of course, so I was an atheist for a large part of this life. Then at the age of 23, just some narrative is coming up, so I'm sharing that. So at the age of 23, I started a business and got married. And that age, so I quickly went from being an atheist to really asking all the questions. Who am I? What am I doing here? What is the purpose of existence? All of this. And then for many, many years, I went through this, what is called the spiritual journey, the sadhana lila. So tried all kinds of practices, read every book which I could lay my hands on. And I was at the end of it fully lost. Like, not more clear, but less clear. you know what happens, no? This beginner syndrome where at the beginning you feel like everything you have understood, right? And then as you dig deeper, you realize you haven't discovered anything yet. So after many years of spiritual searching, more than 10, 12 years, I was completely lost. Like I didn't even know, like, what is my path? What should I ask? What is the question which is unanswered? And in that state, in 2009, I met Guruji of Srimuji Baba, and I went up in front of him on the hot seat and said, I mumbled something like, "You have to help me with the first question because even what I want to ask, I don't know." And it was sincere. It was not any pretense. At that point, I was so fully lost in the spiritual search. So I don't actually remember with great clarity what answer he gave. But I do remember really well that as he looked at me, you see, the notion that I had about myself, the notion of the me, you see, was not pointing to anything. Like there was no reference left to it anymore. So you could say, if you were to try and put it into words, you could say that I could not find a me. Like I could not find a location. I could not find where I am, what I am. And yet it was not an alien sensation. It was just like, it was always like this. It was just here. So that which I took myself to be, did not find any landing ground as he just continued to look at me. Then externally in this body, some things were happening, like laughter was coming and crying was happening at the same time, or alternation of those things. But that's not important at all, what is happening externally. Internally, I lost like a reference conceptually to who I was, and yet something was resting so deeply in the true self-knowledge. It was just so this. If you go back to the metaphor of table 1 and table 2, I realized that I can't find anything on table 1 of value, and yet it seemed like table 2 was only coming into appearance now. But at the same time, it was clear that it was always there. That's why that paradox, which the mind can never understand, that what is self-realization? How do you, in an instant, recognize the eternal nature of yourself? But you seem to find it in the worldly play within time, or stepping out of time. You discover that. So this happened. I met Guruji in 2009, in January of 2009. Then for many months, I didn't feel like really talking, or definitely didn't feel like sharing any of this with anyone. That was not the feeling at all. So I would just find ways to go sit in my room. Find ways to go sit in my room. So the typical, the family members coming and saying, "Are you feeling depressed? Are you all right? Is something wrong?" And I'm saying, "But I'm so happy. Can't you see the joy?" And then saying, "No, we can't. We just feel like you're depressed." So those 3-4 months went like that. But then some life energy, some life force started to appear in this way that work started to continue from here. But the identification with the one that I could not find, I don't feel like it ever came back. Momentarily, of course, every day you may have a moment or two where some identification happens. But truly, in the extent of living under that mental oppression, I don't feel like I can say it came back. Which, by the way, is no guarantee that it won't come back tomorrow. So make best use of me now. But since I went to the feet of my master, it is not really. I cannot say that I've faced mental oppression in that way. That is what changed.
I mean, it's impossible to know whether you eventually may have come to that, or if it took you meeting such a person for that to happen.
It's impossible. Anything true actually is impossible to know. It's impossible to know in the same way that you said it's impossible to know, which is impossible to infer or impossible to conclude. The truth actually is impossible to infer and conclude.
So
And
I think it's like, sorry.
no, please, please.
It's like sometimes when you've I know that there, I also was an atheist as well, but for many years things didn't make sense, and I also come from an Indian background, and but anyway, it was rejected. But then after being on my knees and asking to show me, I was shown. So whatever has been sin cannot be unseen.
Yes.
I can't sit here and deny the existence of something greater. I was shown. I just wanted to, I guess something.
On that point, can I just invite one more question, which is to say, okay, now suppose that your memory went. So everything that you were shown in the past, all memory of that is also gone.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, that limited aspect of your existence, is it not apparent, or is it apparent?
Yes, it is. It's constant. Yeah.
So when we learn to look fresh moment to moment, then the mind cannot trick us and say, oh, you had it then, but then you lost it. The truth cannot be lost in that way.
Right, yeah. This is what I mean when I say that what has been seen cannot be unseen.
Exactly.
See, yes, yeah. Anantaji, if I may just ask you, and I have heard you speak about this, that when one closes their eyes, you're in this space, but that's not it. It seems, however, a space where all of humanity can relate to. If we close our eyes, we are in this space that's boundless. There are no boundaries. There's, all of that stuff.
Yes.
And yet it's not it,
Yes.
but everyone can relate to it.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yes. So, okay, let me see if I'm not sure whether I got the question correctly. So, you're talking about when I say this boundary between inside and outside. You see, we don't really know what this is, because if it was inside something, like we presume it's inside the body, then if you had the ability to go inside the body, we would find organs, we would find flesh and blood. But where we go, we close our eyes, it's like may appear to be like a dark, empty space. But we notice that consciousness has the power to project anything here. So you can imagine a tree, you can imagine a full universe, you can imagine whatever you want. Mm-hmm. So it's like an unlimited screen, which is at our disposal. So, and the closing and opening of eyes, actually, we cannot really determine whether that is happening within the play of that screen or whether there's an actual physical change that is really happening. Have I gone too far? Is this?
No. Uh-huh.
So just like when okay, so let's take the idea that our eyes are closed, but we dream up an entire universe, isn't it? In that which is called the dream state. The body's eyes are closed. So anyway, that's a full satsang itself, so we won't go too much into that. So what is that? So that is what I'm saying is that the notion of inside and outside is just conceptual. And actually, if you were to just explore more, you find that, okay, now I can project so much here, memories, imagination, thoughts, all of these things can also show up here. But really the unanswered question, even in this inside, is that who is perceiving even this? Because that is never on the screen. So we could then say, okay, I could have a screen, then a screen within a screen, and then in that dream have another screen. You see, where in the dream I've closed my eyes and I'm imagining a tree. You see, and then it can be infinite regress happening there, but all of that only on the screen. You see? What about that which witnesses the screen? And isn't that critical to find out? Because all the elements on the screen are changing, and if we try to hold on to that which is changing, then we all experience suffering. Like you said, you're brought to your knees in whatever way. All of us have that experience. So that is because of the elements on the screen. But that which witnesses the screen, isn't it important to come to some reality or something truthful about that? Because just to, if we are having this conversation in a dream, then the dream switches, a new dream comes, then another life comes, and another dream comes. All of this is changing. But what witnesses all of this? Who am I in my reality? That has to somewhere become important to us. We're really saying, okay, everything that appears here, let me, like, the entire universe, the entire of the world, of humanity is studying that. Through all the sciences and through all the things. But how many are studying that which is witnessing all of this? And if I have to determine which tree to build a house on, is it important to determine whether I'm a sparrow or a chicken? Suppose we spend our whole life living as if we are a turtle, and at the end it turns out you were a giraffe. Isn't that the first determination? So you say, what should I do with my life? You see, what should I do with my life? Should we operate under a presumptive notion of who we are, or under some truth of who you are?
Yes, yeah. Like, I guess like the Jungle Book, there was the Mowgli, you know, he thought he was a wolf, or his parents, they were wolves, yet he wasn't.
Yes.
All that conditioning of wolves was, but it wasn't who he was.
So now what is the trouble? The trouble is that all our usual means of knowledge hit a roadblock. See? Because you cannot perceive who you are, you cannot think about who you are. In every culture, every tradition, like your name comes from probably from the Sikh tradition, and then the Sikhs, they say, "Soche sochna hoye jo soche lakhwar." Which means you may think and think 100,000 times, but the truth will never be a product of your thinking.
Mm.
So in every tradition, in some way or the other, sages have pointed us that knowledge attained through thinking is just time-based and is very limiting. Go to a deeper insight, a deeper knowledge. You see, but in the world, nobody talks about that. You see, in fact, in the world, when you mention intuition, it is like taken to be the ability to predict the next scene of the movie or something like that, which is not intuition. So the aspect of ourselves where our true self is known is fully neglected in the human condition at the moment. And that is a clear disservice to ourselves in every way imaginable. So my invitation and my, in fact, like prodding, provocation, everything is that it's really important to find out who we are. First and foremost, it is important to find out who we are. Because everything else depends on that. You spend your whole life and make yourself into the best Jagmeet possible. But then you realize that I'm not Jagmeet. Then that is the best use of time.
It's just a name. It's not who I am. It was. I know that's clear.
That's very good. So, then who are you?
That which cannot be named, really.
Yes. Cannot be named, but can be recognized. So, so this recognition is always available to us. And because it cannot be named and it cannot be perceived, doesn't mean that we cannot rely on it fully.
Yes, yeah. Again, although I've heard you speak of it, it's only recently, I think, that the concept of be headless has sunk in.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you say that from do you know the work of Douglas Harding?
Yes, maybe it plays a part there, but when I first came in Satsang here, I didn't have any memory of that. But
Oh, okay.
yes, when I was reading all the books, I came across this.
Right, yeah, the headless way. Anyway, yeah. Thank you so much, dear teacher. Thank you very much.
So,
Nice to talk to you, and thank you to our brothers and sisters as well.
very good. It was a joy, complete joy.
Thank you very much.
I want to speak more with you. So whenever you feel like you've been called, just come up. Okay, who's still standing? Let's go to Jada, who's saying, may I come up next? I need to go for Seva. Yes.
Father, it's no more Jada.
I see.
Again, this name.
Yeah, Samia, how do you say?
Samia.
Samia.
Yeah. So it's just a little bit excitement here, but it's fine. I just want to be more still. Yeah, thank you. Oh, Father, I raise my hand to actually give some report, but somehow it's all dissolved, like it was the last thing believed in, and during the satsang it's just dissolved, and it seemed like it was just something like the old habit of reporting, just the report has changed, which became something new, not I was used to, but it's just seemed that it's actually nothing. But during my stay in Sahaja, it was coming time to time and believed in, and that's why I wanted to come and just expose it. But it's really seen like it's nothing but a report from a mind, from a person, and it was
Dissolve is very good. Dissolve is very good. So dissolve is the way to live. You have
yeah, Father, it was something like,
no?
I don't I wanted to expose it because maybe I yeah.
Exposing is a very tricky word. So exposing can be that I want to expose it so that you take it fully.
For the sake of I don't believe it again, but is it clear, my voice? No?
Yeah, just hold it like that. Just hold it better when you hold it.
Sorry, Father, I couldn't hear you. I missed because some people say that is not clear audio, so
Yeah.
maybe it's clear now, right?
Yes. So many times what can happen is the mind also starts to use the tool called exposing to revitalize that which is already dissolved. So we can just like dissolve and say, but maybe better if you expose. No, the exposing is to dissolve anyway. So if it has happened, you don't need to bring it back or value that in any way.
Yeah, and yes, it's
The way of the heart is moment to moment. Moment to moment.
it already feels like hardship to go there.
Things like or things like?
Hmm?
What's the distinction between feels like and thinks like? They say it feels like hardship. Is it not thinks like hardship?
Everything is hardship now. Oh.
Hardship is only if there's still something you own.
Hmm?
If there's still something that you can say is mine, only that can create hardship.
No, Father, I'm just so okay. Like I'm that I cannot go anywhere now. Like,
Huh?
yeah. Hmm?
Huh? Both of us are like, huh?
I'm it's I don't know how to report from there. I'm oh
That's very good. Even I don't
yeah,
report from there.
yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Table number 2, please.
Hmm?
Like I was telling Jagmeet earlier, there are 2 tables in every house, including my house. But one of them has become an antique because of not being used. And the other one is fully alive. I'm inviting you to the same table for dinner for the rest of your life.
Well, I'm here already.
Yes. But don't go on any mental adventures to table 1.
Hmm?
Everyone is always at table 2. But in our mental adventures, we go to table 1. That's all. That's the only hardship.
Yeah. No, I'm not able to. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Are you living from the heart?
Huh?
Are you living from the heart?
Father, it feels like I'm nowhere. Like,
Nowhere is the heart.
huh?
Everywhere which is not the head is the heart. That is why it is the easier way to live.
I don't know how to speak from here.
You'll learn this. You'll learn this. This is very.
Yeah.
As you live in the way of the heart, the sharing which will happen organically through you will be the way of the heart. You don't have to find a way to speak it. Actually, there's no way. If I was to sit down and plan a way to speak this, I can't do it. What would we say? Impossible. It is a life lived in the way of the heart, not the speaking of it.
Not just.
Not the speaking of it which is important.
Mm.
Your inability to conclude is actually a good thing. Your inability to frame words and put your life into a narrative is actually a good thing. Thank you, my child. Thank you. I love the name Samia. Samia is very nice.
Oh, How do you know its name? Its meaning?
No, I have no idea. What is it?
May I share?
Again?
May I share the
Yes,
meaning?
yes.
We share the meaning also. So it means elevated, exalted, glory, eminence, sublime, noble-minded, aspiring to the highest, and incomparable.
No pressure, no pressure. Very beautiful, very beautiful.
This is something and they laugh.
Very
What did you say?
Because you remember all this.
You wrote, so yeah.
Very
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm so happy with it.
Okay, can we go to, okay, let's hear what Akshay wants to say.
Hello, Father.
Hello.
I don't have anything to say. I think this phase is not good, like dark night or something.
You feel like you're undergoing the dark night.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Everything that we go through in life is an opportunity to come to the truth. So when you're feeling throttled and squeezed, when every aspect of our human existence seems to be against us, attacking us, then you call that the dark night of the soul in some way. But it is taken as suffering only when you're holding on to something. Without holding on to anything, nothing can make you suffer. The greatest power in this universe cannot make you suffer. So sometimes in our life we undergo all of this to come to a deep rest in our heart, in our intuitive inside. Life forces us to give up on our ideas, desires, expectations, notions, so that we learn to rest in the unfathomable, unsensible, non-computable, unperceivable reality of your intuitive presence, of your divine presence. But now is the time where every identity will get squeezed. But it's a great squeezing because only the faults can be chopped, only the faults can be cut. So, as you are open and empty, then even the dark night cannot really cause any suffering to you. Because in this world, only the faults can be attacked.
Father, what about Master's presence?
So, even more important than the physical presence of the Master is for you to follow the pointings of the Master. So, you have to surrender your individual will, and that is the only point of calling someone a guru. You cannot have a guru and have an individual idea about what's best for your life. So continue to follow the pointings, continue to follow the instructions which are with you. And like this, we are speaking, and if things change, then this mouth will move in that way. Do not rush the flowering of a flower.
So satsang words are completely different, and now everyone, family, friends, and relatives are advising about job, money, and health, these kind of things. But I don't want to follow them because
Yes.
like only one wish was coming that I should go and attend satsang.
Yes. Okay. So I'll clarify this for you. This is a very important question for everyone. It can feel like the worldly advice we get from friends and relatives and family and everyone is a different type of advice, and the advice you're getting in satsang is a different type of advice. But actually, it is more different than you imagine. It is not less different. It is more different, because one advice can be like a worldly advice. The second advice can be like a spiritual advice. Then you can have like in the worldly advice, you can have categories about job, relationship, all of that. In spirituality, you can have categories of knowledge, ethics, being, all of these categories. What I am pointing you to has nothing to do with any of that, either of those. So you don't have to get some overlap between what you should do based on worldly advice and spiritual advice. What I'm pointing you to is not on the same playground as the rest of the world. Because that is what I'm calling today the way of the head. I'm telling you about the way of the heart, which is only moment to moment. You just follow moment to moment without making any presumptions about where your life has to be, who has to be in your life, nothing. Full emptiness in your head, which is not.
I'm trying to follow heart, but like I don't understand anything. Heart or intuition, I don't know anything.
Okay.
I don't know why.
So you can see that you exist or no?
Yeah, I exist.
So that, where do you know that? Is it in the head?
No.
So stay there. Where you know that you exist, stay there.
For me, it is impossible, Father.
So that is what every head will complain. If you talk to everyone's mind, they will say, but for you it's impossible. See, but self-knowledge.
Father, in your presence, it was so, I just existed and there was no problem and nothing. This beingness was so.
That's why I said to start with that you have to learn to follow the pointings. You have to follow the invitations to where you are being led, instead of determining in your head what is best for you. Because then there is no point calling somebody father or guru and then saying, I know what is best for me. It's like you don't join a school and then say, I'm going to teach the teacher. I will tell the teacher what they need to teach me. So the mind always takes that position. You see? Now that I've called Father, let me tell Father what I should be doing, or what he should be doing, what he should be telling me. That is not a father.
So Father, I don't know what's best for me. I don't know anything.
Yes. With that,
I am only waiting for last 20 days or something, just waiting at last week. These 7 days, I'm intensely just waiting for some guidance to arise or something, because I don't know anything. And the only thing that comes into mind is just go into Father's presence and sit there. That's all I can do.
Yes. So both the waiting and the knowing that this is what I have to do is still too much knowing. It may sound too radical. It may sound too radical. But an infant does not know even this.
And what about mind or Maya? You know, how it kind of, I came to you and mind started working against how to separate master from
Yes.
him.
You stay with the presence of the master in your heart and stay with the pointing of the master in your heart. Nothing can overpower you. See, but if you try to mix it up, this also, Maya also, master also, little bit of this also, little bit of that also, then it will seem like you're getting squeezed. What I'm pointing to is universal. The highest sadhu can get it and the greatest sinner can get it. There are no prerequisites, there is nothing. But you have to find a way in which you surrender this idea of a person and the idea of a personal will and personal desire before the truth is really lived in that life, apparent to you in that life.
And outer activities can be anything, you know.
Yes. Outer activity is nothing to do with what I'm saying. Anything can unfold there, that's fine.
Okay.
Very good. Very good. Let's go to Muni.
Hello, Guruji.
Oh dear.
I was listening the whole time, but I was working and I saw my hand went up, so but I didn't feel it to put it down. I don't know. I felt like maybe it's yeah. I haven't spoken to you for quite some time. Like, even though I follow, and thank you. Right now it's coming. Thank you so much for the audio satsangs. Right now, even there is like the 2 ones last this week I haven't even watched it because it's like kind of so much. But thank you.
You're welcome, dear. Do you feel like they are more choppy than the broadcast satsangs, or what do you feel about that?
Maybe. I don't know. Today, as then I was coming, like Peter also said, today satsang, I was also in like very in the mode of the audio satsang somehow. I feel, but that's just, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they are more choppy. Maybe. Maybe, yeah, choppy is good. Yeah.
Thank you for the photo yesterday. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you that I could send it. That was, thank you for our response. Yeah, thank you for that.
All my love, all my blessings.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Big hugs to you and everyone there.
I'm actually not in Sahaja.
I see.
I am not in Sahaja. I'm outside of Sahaja. Sorry.
Close by? The next neighboring is the village, or?
Yeah, I was like in the village for the last 3 months now. Like over, and right now I went to, it's called now, it was called Lila Sahaja, so like small community next to Sahaja.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Thank you.
Let's go, Shiv.
Hello, Father. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Video, 1 second, I'll start. Okay, here's the light. Okay.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah. Hi. How are you doing, Father?
Very good. Very good.
I didn't want to give myself the time to actually formulate a question, sort of like I wanted to it's sort of there, but I wanted it to be something.
Nice. I like that.
I don't know what. Yeah. So this is something that's been coming up like for a while. Like last week, if you played a bhajan on the Khandana Bhavandanana, and for some reason that brought up this feeling of so much aversion to Vivekananda Ramakrishna Mission, because I was in a residential school there. And one thing that was bothering me again and again is, like, to me it is unimaginable to have some bhakti again towards whatever was Ramakrishna Mission, na? Like whoever, Paramahamsa or Vivekananda. And I feel that it's even all his teachings were like, believe yourself to be something spectacular, like infinite this that, believe, and so much about the manifest world, so much desire, so much doership also, so much doership. So I found it so oppressive, and then I'm like wondering, maybe there's something there to it also, that is also a valid path. Maybe it's still going to the same place and I don't get it, but it's something that I wanted to ask you.
Very good. Yeah. So, like we discussed before, so if you remember, we said that we can't really templatize any of this. We can't really templatize any of this. And then we could say, okay, now, if it is not templatizable, how does it really work then? It seems to work in this way, although this is just like a storybook version of this, because the reality we can't really talk about. But in the storybook version, there are beings with certain temperaments, and then for them, the master with a particular temperament is available for them to go to, so that they resonate well with each other, and then go through this head-to-heart journey that is happening in Satsang. So don't have to worry. Like many times, some expressions are not that palatable, and some expressions that we cannot follow them at all. Is it? Really fine. Nobody will force you ever to follow any expression, unless of course you've gone to that mission school and all that. Then of course you will stop. But now that you're out of school, you're not really being forced to pick a guru you don't resonate with. Although sometimes that may have some helpful things also, because at least confirmation bias is not possible in those situations, right? So it's not confirm what you think you already know, is it? And then somebody who's just saying things which are completely opposite to your way of thinking sometimes may also be helpful. But really, it's not a determination in my head anyway. You just feel attracted.
But that's strong aversion. Like I feel that something like, what's up with that? It came up just suddenly like then. I had to remove my earphones and then keep them away, and then I don't know. It was very strong.
Yeah. Many of us, and especially in India, and some people from overseas also confirm like this. Like sometimes even I'll get a dream about going to school for an exam and having not studied, or studied for some other exam. So this childhood conditioning, all of this can play out. So my suggestion would be, don't work on that auxiliary problem at the moment. You stay with the core of this, which is to come to self-discovery, self-realization. And then if some strands of that still remain, then we'll pull them out together. Don't worry.
Yeah. Back in Bangalore, I'll come on Monday if it's there.
Very good. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Father.
Good to hear you're back.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Elena. say
Hello.
hello.
I just don't feel so. I just don't know what to say. There's so much since the retreat and even before the retreat. There's so much resistance going on, and I force myself to look to it every day and read and look videos of Moji, because I don't want it to linger on.
Yes. So one tip I have for you is that resistance, you see, is only possible when there are two categories in the head. You see? So maybe there is like a spiritual category, and there is like a resisting side, which is like a worldly category or an identity category, which is fighting. Now, without the other category of spirituality in the head, see, if you don't have to accept anything that I'm saying, what could you resist? Thank you. That smile is very sweet. I put up after some resistance, I have to say.
I just try to bring my attention over and over back to the witnessing.
Yes. But okay, something simpler. So we talked about these two tables. You heard that, or you just joined?
No, I heard that.
Okay, good. So resistance is the caretaker of table one saying, no, you can't put this on my table. Is it? But I don't want to put anything in your mind. I don't want to play in that playground at all. It doesn't matter what you accept and what you reject from what is being spoken here. Don't worry. Firstly, that has to be made clear. Yes. So nothing to resist, nothing to fight.
No, I'm not resisting. It's not resisting you. It's just so much noise in the head, and I try to sit with that.
Yeah.
And I all kinds of techniques to do with it.
Okay.
But you once said, then you just try to seek relief from it. And then I see, but that's also not real. So I think I see it, but it's still playing, and I'm still buying it. I still go to that first table.
Yeah. So that there is too much stacked up on table number one. There's too much stacked up on table number one. It's only something on table one which has a problem with that. That there is too much noise in the head. Who has a problem with that?
Yeah, I know it's that person does not exist. It doesn't feel like that.
So unless there is a notion that there is too much noise in the head, the noise is not bothering anything.
It's bothering this non-existent person.
Well, that itself says it all. No? Like, how can the non-existent be bothered?
I still believe it. I wish I could stop believing it.
Yes, that power you have. That power you have fully, but you cannot do it in the past, and you can't do it in the future. You can only do it with the thought which will come now, and exercise that power with the thought that comes now. That's all.
Yeah.
So the mind will try to make it a game about the past, and it'll make it about, okay, now this has happened over the past couple of weeks, and now I'm like this. You see, about that's all past. Or it'll say, but how do I do this? How do I deal with day-to-day life? And I can't do this anymore. All that stuff is about the future.
Yeah.
The future is actually just about right now.
Yeah.
When you're not under the hypnosis of a thought right now, the full truth is apparent to you, as much as it was apparent to Bhagwan.
Yes.
That's it. So this game becomes more of an instant game than an idea of a long-term game. Just instantly. Are you free right now? Yes, you are. Are you free right now? Yes, you are. I can answer on your behalf without waiting. Because if I give you time, then the mind may have different answers. So I'm not giving him time. Before the click. Just play this game, click, 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 click. If you ever insert yourself in time, that is when the narratives can be formed. And then the games of resistance and acceptance and all that can play out.
Thank you.
Of the heart is moment to moment. It's moment to moment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Adrian.
Namaste, Father. Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I was feeling this presence of my biological father who passed away in 2009, and just wanted to, I mean, to bring it to Satsang and to bless him. And I love him very much, and unfortunately he was pretty much addicted to alcohol and pretty pessimistic, but he was pretty pessimistic, but I feel he was very pure in the heart. In some innocence I feel it. And, yeah. Just was feeling his presence. Thank you, Father. Thank you.
My dear. Hey, Satyam has had his hand up since before the first bhajan. Sorry, I'm coming to you so late. Since before the first bhajan. Sorry, I'm coming to you so late.
Hello, Father.
My dear, there's an echo coming back.
Can you hear me? I cannot hear you anymore.
My dear, there's an echo coming back.
How is it now? Is it okay? I cannot hear you anymore.
It's not so good, my dear.
Can you hear me, Father?
So what I will do is I'll mute for a moment and you can speak and then we'll switch it. So what I will do is I'll mute for a moment and you can speak and then we'll switch it. Exactly.
Is it better now, Father?
Yes, yes, yes. Let's try this. Yes.
No, you cannot hear me, right?
Now we can.
Cannot hear you at all.
Now there seems like there's some lag.
Maybe I will go on the phone.
Okay, try. Let's try.
Just give me 2 seconds, please.
Yes, yes. Now, let's try.
Can you hear me, Father?
Yes, this is perfect.
Okay, this is on the phone. It was on the computer before.
This is good.
Can you hear me now? Clear?
Perfectly, perfectly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak. I was going through this loop of raising hand, like in the classroom. Oh no, I should not ask. Raise hand. I was doing that drama because I felt like what you really have to say what I have to hear. You have really spoken to everyone, and it has gone in completely. And but still, there was that impulse and to say. I feel like putting it out for now. So please bear with me. It was there was a search in my life for many years, and then after I met Shri Muji Baba in 2015, there was and he said it that the I am, which was locked for so many years, it came out of the box. And it's true that this sense of being is here always. It doesn't go. But now there are challenges which are really, this is coming in my life. I don't know, my mind spins why it's coming. For example, physical pain, Father. Like someone is rattling my body from inside with lots of sweats and stuff like that. So it takes a lot of attention into that.
Yes.
And I take this as a part of maturing. and there's almost a sense of this body is going to break open into many pieces. It's like the death of the body, something like that.
Yes.
And there's a lot of fear which comes with it. I deal it on an everyday basis. I've been here now with you in your presence, feeling, sensing this nectar, what we are, and at the same time, the pain and the sweat is there. And I say, okay, this is, my life, body's destiny, and I have to go through this. But there's almost like when you said, like Muji Baba felt like he's going to become a hunchback and all that. For me, there are these images of my body splitting into 100 pieces and a tag, and this mind creates a lot of stuff.
Yes. So one tip I have for you, and this may be helpful, is that you must live like you're already dead. Just live like you're already dead, then the mind cannot push that button and say,
Wow.
मरे हुए को क्या मारोगे?
हाँ Father, ये तो सच है. ये तो बहुत, ये आपने बड़े strong words बोले हैं. Yeah, I think this is exactly probably I need to hear that.
Because I noticed this condition you have because of your previous medical history.
Yeah.
So just imagine that what can die is already dead. Alive. In fact, what can die is already dead anyway.
Yeah, I see that, Father, that this body is dying. It's like, as what Muji Baba says, a burning candle, or whatever, however he puts it.
Put it in the category of already dead. But you are alive.
Yeah.
You are eternal life itself.
Yeah, I sense that when you say that, I sense in my heart that this is true, that what I am is not limited, and so temporarily living in this shell. And
so this battle between temporary life and eternal life is the same battle between head and heart.
Yeah.
in head and heart. Like you said, you know in your heart that nothing about you can die in reality.
Yeah.
So consider that which is going to go anyway, consider that it's already gone. Then the mind cannot push that button and make you dance in that way.
There's almost a fear of somehow, I don't know where it comes from, this fear of death. I can see it.
Yeah.
Like it's a fear. I can see that it's not a real fear somehow, but somehow I still do believe in this thought of death.
You know what your mind is scared of most? It is scared of your reality. It is scared of eternal life.
Yeah.
And it poses as if it is the fear of death.
Yeah.
When it finds that you are timeless and deathless, that is what it wants to run from the most. And it is that eternal life which it is trying to make you run away from.
Yeah.
If you're coming closer and closer to it, it will try to push harder and harder. So
I really need your blessings, Father, in this journey.
always have them. You always have them.
Because I've come to a distance where I can't go back from here.
So let this I, if you really need my help, you have to fully give up on this I. You have to give it up to me. I'm not here to help you. Sorry to say.
Yeah, I understand.
Here to help you. I'm here to dissolve you, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
So don't ask me for help. You help me by handing over whatever you think is yours to me.
Yeah.
If you make that mine, then death cannot kill it.
Yeah. In this moment, I'm not dying.
But the mind tells you, but you're going to die, but you're going to die. They say, take it up with Father because my life is his then. You find a way to completely hand yourself over, and it doesn't have to be Ananta. It can be anybody that your heart feels truly devoted to, where you feel so comfortable making your life theirs. Then what button will the mind push?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for everything, Father. Thank you for the words which always point to the heart.
Just all of you now can spot the difference between the way of the head and the way of the heart. All of you can spot the difference. You can smell the difference between the way of the head and the way of the heart. And you so have no excuses left. You have no excuses left to follow the way of the head. Just hand over your head now. You cannot hold on to any idea about yourself and follow the way of the heart. The way of the heart is full surrender, full trust, no doubt, just moment to moment, and no intellectualization, rationalization, making sense of things. It's a radical leap, but you have the full power to take it. Last one, Clarissa.
Hello, Anandaji. Thank you that I can come. I just want to lay everything at your feet. This is all.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good, my child. So you laid it here. Now it's mine, yes?
Yes.
Don't take it back.
Yes.
Feel?
Yes.
This is not what I clicked. Paula's birthday, Ah, there she is.
I'm here, Father.
Happy birthday, Ananda.
Thank you.
Yeah. All of us. Sing. What do you want to sing? Hindi or English?
Hindi, please.
Hindi. Come on, the ones on the camera have to sing. बार बार दिन ये आए, बार बार दिन ये जाए, बार बार दिन ये आए, बार बार दिन ये गाए, तुम जियो हजारों साल आरज़ू. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Paula. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Paula. Happy birthday to you.